Hi there! Today our project is going to be making watercolor silly trees. Let's get started! Okay, for today's lesson, what we're going to need to do is have these supplies. A piece of watercolor paper, or a little heavier paper than just, printer paper. We don't want that. That doesn't hold the water very well. I'm using actually what's called Bristol board, and it should work pretty well for the watercolor project. So you definitely need watercolors, and these are limited. We don't have very many in here, and so if you have a small amount, that's great. So we need watercolors, water in just a water container, a rag. I'm going to use 2 brush sizes, just one that gets a little bit moppier and one that might do a little finer detail. But if you happen to have these, this is the Aqua water brush, and I just discovered these in the past few months, and they are pretty awesome. So they're called Aqua, I guess you would say, by Pentel. And the cool thing about this is that you keep your water in the handle part of the brush, and then paint from there, and it's very easy. You just squeeze a little bit more out and it cleans off the tip. So that's an option for you if you want to keep things just a little less messy. So that's an option. So also we need pencil and eraser, or if you're lucky enough to have an eraser on the end of your pencil, you can do that. And then we are going to possibly outline at the end with a ultra fine point Sharpie. That's this kind of, it's really sharp, tiny. Or if you don't have that, you can definitely use the Flare outliner at the end. Now this is a water-based pen or marker, and so you definitely need to wait for your watercolors to be dry, otherwise it'll smear. So the Sharpie is always permanent. So that one, you don't want to draw through water with it, but it is permanent, so it's a better option. Okay, well, I think we should get started. Now, you do not have to draw when you do this. You do not have to draw your silly trees, but you may find that it's a little easier. I have several different kinds of trees that I like to do, but to start with, I'm going to do just a basic, here's a tree, and here's a trunk. Okay, now I'll do that again. We'll just do a row of trees, and I'll make it, some are tucked behind. That'll make it more interesting. Maybe it has 2 branches. Okay. Maybe this one's really kind of crazy because it's just up here and has a really long trunk. And then I'm going to put 2 more that are like this. And they're gonna have a super skinny little trunk, and another one. Woohoo, very tiny. They might fall over. Anyway, we're talking silly. We're not talking about realistic. So, and you can always do, just simple little markings for grass, because that's not our focus. Our focus is the trees. Okay, so, and I didn't need my eraser this time, and I hope you don't either. I hope you can just feel good about just putting something on the paper. We're not worrying about the drawing techniques right now. We're just gonna enjoy putting color down. So I'm gonna get my brush wet, like really wet. And then I'm going to, let's see, what color do I wanna start with? I think, and these are silly trees, remember? So I'm gonna start with a soppy. Get this, I might need to add more water. Just get this really runny here. And I'm gonna, ooh, isn't that beautiful? So I'm gonna think that from this whole thing, I'm going to assume that the light is coming mostly from this angle. And so the lighter side will be on the right side. Okay, now I rinse my brush. I wipe it off just to make sure that I don't see any more of the purple. Now I'm going to take a little red. And while this is still wet, I'm going to try to blend into it. Now I have mostly water on this, so I'm gonna get some more color. Ooh, yeah, that's gonna be pretty. Pretty tree. Kind of wish I could see trees like this outside. And you do in the fall, you see some pretty colors, but maybe not quite like this. I still think I want more color there. So I'm gonna just, there we go. There's the intensity. Maybe even a little more. Ooh, I'm liking that. Okay, so I'm going to rinse. Make sure my brush is looking clean. Yep. So now I'm gonna go into this yellow. And again, I wanna get a lot of yellow on there. So I put a lot of water in, but do I have much yellow? Let's see. That's pretty good. So here's a silly tree. So in this one, we've got some nice colors that kind of bleed into each other. And bleeding doesn't mean like blood's coming out. It just means that it goes, you know, out into the next color. Particularly works when one color is wet and then the other color is wet also. That's called wet in wet. All right, now I'm going to do a very different tree on the next one. I'm going to make it a little bit more like this, more like it's almost like cotton candy, you know? And I'm just going to bring it around. Now, the darkest part, I think will want to be down here. So we're just gonna do this. Now, I'm gonna go back again to the purple because I really like it. So I'm gonna put that in between. Now that's really dark and I'm just gonna rinse my brush again so that I don't have quite so much paint on there. Now I'm gonna do this. There we go. Now, time for a color change. So rinse. Wipe it off. Let's get some yellow in there. And I just kind of want to fill in here and there. Because we can go back and we'll tweak, okay? We'll do what we want to make this interesting. All right, so this one's a kind of more of stripey, right? Whoop. And I'm just pulling this across a little. I think I want some more yellow in here. There we go. So this is kind of giving me the impression that it's around. It does make me think of cotton candy the way it's going. Let's get this to go around a little more. So there's the silly tree. All right, so I suppose you're saying, well, how come there are no green trees? So let's do this again. Let's do something more, maybe we could do it a little more realistically. Okay, this green is not a color I think of as being a realistic outdoor green. So first we're gonna lay it down and then we're gonna add colors to it to be the colors that might reflect what you see outside. Okay, so I didn't go all the way to the top. I'm gonna add some yellow up there. I'm gonna add some yellow in here. Now this is giving you, while I dab in here, that's gonna give you the impression of leaves, all right? So we're doing this, dab. It's a little better color than before. I might even actually mix these over, I didn't clean this out very well, over here, boop, boop. See what color we get. Oh, that's way better. Not such a blue-green as it was before. Okay, so I'm just dabbing. And I'm starting to get that leafy thing going. All right, I kind of want to add this orange. I want to see what happens when we get a little orange in there, and I want to put it off to the side. Okay. Now, green and red are complementary colors. What does that mean? That means They're opposite sides of the color wheel, and when they're put together, they will form brown. If you can see this orange with this green is starting to turn more brown. Well, we don't really want that. So we're gonna let it be for just a little bit. I'm gonna add just some orange down here. And definitely orange will do fine next to yellow. And now look at that. The orange is fine next to the yellow. We got brown happening because of the complementary colors there, but the orange is vibrant when it's just out, you know, and not mixing with its complement. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. I gotta clean off my yellow here because what I did was mix in green in my haste to try to make a different green. So I'm gonna add a little more yellow here just to make this a little bit spunkier. All right, so we got some silly looking trees here. Now these could be leaves, or they could be, maybe you put them as apples, right? So all kinds of things there. I think it's time for a blue tree. So let's go blue. This time, I'm gonna go back to this stripy thing, but I'm gonna do just a few bits of the stripe like this. That's all, okay? Now, let's see what we can do with that with our yellow. Now, blue and yellow make, yes, they make green. I know you were saying that at home, so here is a little bit, because that blue went right in there and stayed. It's not dry, but it's not, you know, soppy, so it didn't mix quite as well, and I'm okay with that. Now, okay, so isn't this fun? Now, I'm going to just blend out a little bit more of that blue right there. I'm gonna come back in. Remember I had said, we're gonna darken it so that the sunlight is more at an angle from the right, top right. Okay, so that means I am going to go back. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue, and I'm just gonna bleed it in right here and give this tree a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel, okay? Okay, now again, these are silly trees because, boy, you're not gonna see this if you go outside, unfortunately, because I think it could be really fun. Now, why don't we do, this time we will do a red. Let's do a red. And I like to call these these are more of a lollipop tree. We're gonna go kind of more circular with this. Still that stripy bit. There's my lollipop tree. Okay, and much darker over here, much darker there. Maybe even a round part there. Okay, now it looks a little bit like a bobber. Okay, so I'm gonna do what I did here. I'm gonna add yellow again. So yellow plus red, what does that make? Orange. I know you said that too. I can't hear you, but I know that you're thinking it. So I'm gonna blend in here. And obviously we don't need to blend away the lines, but, oops, put the wrong color in. We don't need to put orange down, we're making orange. But we wanna kind of keep some of these little stripy lines. So where I am right now is, this is the darker side. I'm gonna let this sit just a second and try and let this red so it won't bleed too much into the yellow, so we keep our stripes a little more. So now, there's that pretty yellow. I'm pulling this over. I've kept those stripes. Watercolor is really fun because it can, especially, you know, on this kind of quick level, it'll soak in pretty quickly and then you can do what you want with it, unless it's super soppy, and then, okay, so now look, we've got some silly trees. Now, you do not have to put brown for a trunk. I mean, look what we've done. We don't want brown. We want some fun colors. So on this one, I'm gonna start because right away I see this and I think, oh, I know what I want. I think I'll switch. This is a good time to switch to my smaller brush. I mean, I can make this one work because when when I dry it off, when I put it in the water here and I dry it off, I roll it. And then when you roll it, you keep the shape, not only keep the shape, but you keep it in a point. See that? And that's how you take care of and respect your brushes. Now, if you do this every time, a lot of you, I'm sure, do not have like professional brushes, and they aren't probably made as well. These are Crayolas. And if you pull a number of times, you're gonna pull off this part, this metal part, off the handle. And this metal part is called a ferrule. If you pull that off the handle, your brush is falling apart, right? Or you may even pull this part out, which is extremely important. It's the whole main point of the brush, right? The brush part. So when you get your brush wet, use your rag, roll it, you know, dab across, but don't pull it so you can save your brush longer, okay? So I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush, and I'm gonna get it wet. I'm gonna roll it to make sure I've got that point. My hand doesn't show it very well because it blends in. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in here. My brush is nice and wet because I hadn't used it before. And now I'm ready. I think this tree here needs a red trunk. Now, I pulled out some blue already. Now I'm gonna put this back on my rag and let it soak a little more up because it was just really runny from the blue coming out. Now I'm taking my time, and I'm going to take this red and get it to blend up to the bottom of the tree. See, that looks like it's supporting it. It gives it a little dimension, a little bit of shadow. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. I'm gonna add more because I really like what's happening here. This one's my favorite so far. Of course, it's the furthest along right now. So again, I'm going back in here. I think this tree trunk could be way brighter red. Okay, silly, silly. These are kind of like a Dr. Seuss type of tree. I even am gonna just touch a little red over there. Oh my gosh, I love what's happening here. Look at that. Woo. Just a hint of that and gave it so much depth. Okay, we're gonna reverse that. When we go over here, we're gonna take our brush. Now see, I've rolled it over here. Then touch this blue, get it filled. I'm gonna go right here. I'll pull this down. Oh, this is perfect example. I want you to take a look at this. When your painting starts looking like this, it's very dry brush, or it's very dry paper, or you know, this is called dry brushing. We don't want that. Not right now. This isn't the lesson we're on. So get your brush filled again with water and more paint. There, see, that's way prettier for this point. There are times when you're gonna want that, but not this time. So I'm going to go over here, do the same kind of look as I did at this other tree. I'm gonna rinse off my brush, but I'm leaving some water in there because what I want it to do is kind of bleed out very slightly. Ooh, that looks good. That's what I'm talking about. Because what it's subtly doing is creating that depth again, so it feels a little bit more like a three-dimensional object, which means 3 dimensions. Height, so it's tall, wide, and deep. That's what 3 dimensions are. The dimensions go length, width, and height. Okay, so there's that tree. Oh, I'm liking these. All right, now, what could we do on this one that would be different? I hear you. I think you're yelling purple. That's what I'm thinking. Or violet. So I've got this brush. I could even go back to my bigger one, but this one actually fits perfectly. Look how much paint I have on there too. That's a lot. I think I'm gonna rinse off. That's just a lot more than I was expecting. Dab off a little bit on your rag. Pull down, try to use what you've got because there's just a whole lot of I'm gonna get more water, very concentrated paint. Ooh, I like this. Now, I'm down to here. Now I kind of want this to, you know, I do want this to blend up into here. Ooh, there we go. Now see it's running. Let's see if we can get that over here. I want it to kind of move. Here we go. See that moving? And I'm gonna tap this in a little bit. I'm gonna get some more in there. The reason I chose this color is it wasn't in there, that we haven't used it yet on this tree. So I thought, I'm gonna plug that in. Yeah, there we go. It's just kind of bleeding into there. I suppose you're thinking, oh, she always says bleeding and it sounds kind of violent, but that's a term you use in painting. Okay, there's that one. It's kind of shaped like a brain now. All right, now these two. Well, I think I'm gonna flip, I'm gonna reverse it. I'm going for a green trunk, all right? So let's go over here. Now this is that crazy green that I think is blue-green. It's definitely a colder green than the ones we mix with the yellow, okay? So I've got this kind of underneath. I really like that. Now this one's the driest, so it's not gonna bleed into it very much, but we can make that happen a little bit by getting our brush rinsed, and we're gonna get this part wet over here, this purple, and then we'll get this green to kind of pull into there. Now, because it's a lighter color, I'm gonna just have to put in a little more green, because that purple is quite intense. Here we go. That's fun. All right. Now, I think I might do the same, but I'm going to, what I'm gonna do is I want this to be a yellower green. So I'm gonna lay this in, rinse my brush, and load up on the yellow and see what we can, there. I'm gonna change it to that. This is almost my favorite color. My favorite color is very much a yellow-green. A nice yellow-green. Okay, I'm gonna pull this in. I gotta kind of keep mixing. Ah, I made that mistake again. I just mixed it all in the yellow. You think I'd know better. Okay, here we go. Now, this is a complement to this color here. The first line I have there. So, what are we making? We're making a brown. That's not really very pretty, is it? But we can see the light green below. Now, the cool thing you can do at this point is go in now and maybe take some red and intensify that. I'm gonna put more water on there. I'm gonna intensify that. Ooh, I like that. I might even do that here. Just kind of, after it gets into the paper a little bit, you lose some of the color value. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is so much fun. I'm gonna put just a little color on the, between the trees, and then I'm gonna pull that in. There. Ooh, I'm liking this. Liking this. There we go. Now, right now that looks pretty silly. Well, we're doing silly trees, right? It's okay if they're silly. I hope yours are way sillier than mine. Okay, there we go. Pull it around. Pull it around. All right. Okay. So at this point, you know, there's all kinds of things you could do. If you wanted to go back in, you want to add like a fruit, a funky fruit, you can do that. If you want to do something else, like, this is kind of fun. What if we take the red and make sure it's really soupy, and then you hold your pencil like this, or your paintbrush, and then you whack, 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 whack. Look at that. We're gonna add a little bit more to this. Oh, I kind of like that. Not much, we don't need it. And then up here, you see where it was wet? It's going, it's bleeding into it. All right? So I kind of like that, a little bit of that. Now you can go ahead and do all kinds, you can do all the colors you use. Just don't get too carried away because the focus is the trees. All right? So, so what I just did was I got my paintbrush really wet in water, and then the paint really wet. And then I held the paintbrush and I hit with the pencil and it got color around. All right. So now we are going to finish off the painting part by just taking, oh, there's that green I really love. It's a happy green, greeny yellow. Yellow green is what it's officially. Okay. So when you say your colors of two mixed together, so your tertiary colors, you're gonna have, or secondary colors, you're gonna have, you'll say the primary color first, and then you say the next color. So here we go. Boop, 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 boop. All right, so this is starting to happen. I like this. I want to go to this fun place. I think there's gonna be cookies and candy there. And I love sweets. Ooh, my goodness. All right, I want some more yellow in this. And I'm just being wild with this because we're all about silly right now. There we go. All right, now, here's where you need to probably let it dry because I see some wet spots. But if you can do it, go ahead and use your Sharpie to do a little bit of outlining. Maybe it's too soon. I'm going to just kind of, I'm going to jump around. Now you do not even need to outline because these are kind of fun just like they are. I'm just showing you though, and I'm not even touching right up to it because if it's wet, I'm just gonna, I don't want to mess with it. Okay, so I know this one's not, this is the one we started with. Okay, here we go. And this just defines it a little bit. It makes it a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more graphic, and that's fun. So I'm not touching, like I said, right up to it. I'm kind of hinting that it's this shape. Now, I can always go in and do something with the lines or maybe just suggest here and there, like that. See? You can always do this kind of thing too. I love dots. The same idea as the splatter, but just in here, just add a texture. Okay, so this one, let me take a look. I think it's still, that's not bad. It's not bad. So I can get in here. And so if you have the flare pen instead of the permanent, just wait. Just wait till everything's dry. There. And then again, I can do a little hint here and there where the line is. You might want more. I just don't want to take away from the painting itself. Okay? So we got two trees completely done. Now I'm going to go around this brain tree. I think it looks like a brain and it has a lot of good ideas in it. How about that? Okay, if you take your pen and drag it through color like I just did, you may need to wipe off the tip on your rag and start again, but it shouldn't do too much. Now this one's, the trunk's kind of behind that tree, so I picked up, and once I got past that tree, then I set it back down. Here we go. Now I can see this purple is very wet. So I'm just gonna make a hint of the space that's there, like going into that. Now I'm gonna go up, trying not to get into the really thick paint. Okay, I kind of like that it's actually spaced out from the tree a little bit. Now, again, you could do kind of a squiggly shape, give the idea of leaves if you want. You could just leave it as it was. Now this is really moist over here, so I'm not gonna stay there much. Yeah, it got my, there. Had to wipe that off. Okay, so this is just a hint. And I'm not even making real leaf shapes, but you know what they are. You can tell. Okay, here we go around this one. And I'm squiggly. It almost looks like I'm being, like I can't hold the pen. But that's my, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm gonna come up here. Squiggle, squiggle. That gives you the idea too, again, that there might be leaves without even telling you that they're leaves, without even saying these are leaves. Okay, there's the place in the tree, in the trunk. Okay, so again, I'm gonna just kind of squiggle some of these shapes in here just to give you that concept that they're This is my cotton candy tree. Okay, so here's this trunk. Pull this down. Now, another thing you could do is make bark in there, but part of this is to keep it somewhat simple while we're messing with colors. And so you don't need to add the bark so much as it just, the focus is again on the leaves, or where the leaves would be, you know, the big part of the tree. So here we go. This is pretty kind of soggy over here. Okay, so I could just leave this as it is, or again, just hint at line divisions, or even just make squiggles. Look at that. Oh, I kind of like that. I'm liking these silly trees. Now, the one last thing you can do is, you know where I made my pencil marks for some grass? You can do that too here. A lot of times you'll see that people mow and then they don't get right close to the tree trunk itself. They didn't get their weed whacker out. And so the taller grass is right next to the tree trunk. So that's what I'm kind of simulating there, pretending like it is. And then you can do dots here too. Dot, 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 dot. Okay, so that's it for my silly trees. And you can just experiment with so many different things. I think more than anything is play with your colors and see how they bleed together, and come up with shapes of trees. Of course, we didn't do like pine trees, or what they're called is conifer trees. We did more deciduous like trees made of cotton candy. Anyway, all right, I can't wait to see what you come up with. If you want to combine this with the silly birds that I did in earlier video, that would be a really fun project. All right, see you next time.